Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Jordan Leasure. I'm the owner and physician of North Shore Proactive Health, a state-of-the-art wellness clinic in the northern Chicago suburbs. I am here with the fabulous Dr. Sarah Watson. I feel
Hi.
like you're all game showy and I'm over here like in the dark. And my lighting is on purpose, everyone. I put a mask or a peel on. So believe me, you don't want to see me any clearer than I am. But all the attention should be focused on the star to my left. So please, please put all your vision, all your attention over there. Sarah, let's start. Let's tell everybody who you are, how we know you there, Jade crashing on your couch. Let's expand on some of that.
Yeah, so I am Dr. Sarah Watson, also a chiropractor. A little bit different background though. My focus is on pregnancy and pediatrics, which in a roundabout way led me to neurodeflective stuff. So yeah.
Let's define that. Let's tell everybody what that is and what we're going to be talking about today.
So neurodeflections are things that your brain does when you are under too much stress. Yeah, so it's kind of fun. So they can be a whole big group of things, from like physical manifestations to emotional manifestations of stress. And so essentially what we're talking about is when your stress demand is up here, your ability to meet it is here, you have to make up that distance. And so you're going to do something to meet that stress demand. So sometimes those don't end up very well, right? Yeah, sometimes they're not very positive things.
The perfect topic for right now.
Yep.
So do you see, let's talk, obviously it's an awesome topic. So let's talk with about adults first, and then maybe we can talk about some of the things that people may be seeing in their kids. But what are some common neurodeflections that you're seeing in the adult population right now?
Cool. So I will start with some physical ones and some that you have probably seen in people in interactions. So one is super, super common, and I do it all the time. And it's actually looking away from someone's face when you're talking to them, right? So if you're ever having a conversation with somebody and somebody's like, blah, 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 and I'm back. And blah, 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 complicated topic, and I'm back. So there's actually a fascinating reason that people do that. And the main reason is that looking at a person and studying like their face, their facial expressions, their body language is actually really complicated, and it takes up a bunch of brain power. And so if you're trying to talk through a complicated subject with somebody, you're going to actually take out that part of your brain power, right? Give it to like a blank wall space so that you don't have to use up that processing power on a human face. And then you can actually think better. Isn't that fascinating?
How is that? I'm sorry, I had myself muted. I had to like unmute. How is that going to change now with people wearing masks?
Oh, so it's probably easier to actually talk to people.
Right.
But let's skip to kids for a second. That interaction with children who don't have as much social repertoire as an adult would have, that child is going to have a more difficult time understanding social cues, right? So we can think about what the long-term implications are for our children if they go back to school with masks on.
That's horrendous. I'm not sending Parker to a school.
No, me neither. Me neither.
And I find, and it's actually funny that you and I are doing this together, but I found in chiropractic school was the first time that somebody said something to me about how expressive my face is. And under normal circumstances, and those of you that know me or maybe have watched this or have watched me interview somebody, because I go back and I watch all these, I have like RBF when I'm listening. And that's just the makeup on my face. What am I going to do? And for those of you that don't know, that is resting cranky face. And I realized in chiropractic school that a lot of how I emote is in my face. So if I smile or if I'm like, or if I do something, but if you can't see, any of that. And Sarah, I don't know if you have seen this in practice, but I do it in my interactions with patients, but now I have a mask on. So if a patient is complaining, it's very hard for me to be empathetic, or it's hard for me to relate, because a lot of what I do, I've realized, is right here.
Yeah. So we can also talk about what that means, like neurologically, when your face goes blank, when you're listening, right? Because that's actually like you're decreasing the amount of stress on your brain because you're not actually producing facial expression. Isn't that fascinating?
So are we analyzing me as we're going here?
Oh my God, all the time. All the time. Constantly. So another one that I see, which is pretty fascinating and like really similar to what I do, which is like look away from somebody, is have you ever talked to somebody who starts to do this?
Oh yeah.
What they're doing, also fascinating, is actually cutting the amount of visual information that they're taking in, and therefore that's how they're decreasing their processing capacity. Isn't that fascinating?
Prolonged blink.
Yep. Or sitting there and going, okay, think. Yep. It's fascinating.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I can understand the rationale, both anatomically and, neurologically, what's going on there. So are you seeing that in your interactions with patients, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. What we are also seeing a lot of is when you cannot control the future, right? Like we normally can, right? And we've talked about this a lot on my page with my own Facebook Lives and stuff. When you don't have predictive capacity, right? So the ability to see the future, plan for it and stuff, what you may do is try to control the present to the extreme, right? So I think we've seen a lot of this where somebody who is absolutely a reasonable person all of a sudden is like, I need to massively control my environment because that's how I am going to express this stress right now, right? And so funnily enough, like that shows up in my office as somebody who's like, this is what I'm going to do now. And here's how I'm going to go through care here. And I'm like, okay, so that's not exactly how this works, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. Right? But yeah,
I'm cleaning.
Yeah. Well, you're controlling your environment, right?
Yeah. And that's definitely what I've, and some of it may be rational because we do have more time. So I'm in the office, my patients are spaced out, a certain amount, same as you guys, so we can clean and whatnot. So I'm kind of like, well, what am I going to do with, this extra hour here? I'm going to clean the office. So that's how I rationalize my stress behaviors.
Yeah. Like one of my other stress behaviors is when I have something that is like a stressful something, right? I will do 47 other things to decrease my load because now I don't have time to focus on this stressful thing, right? So what I'm doing right now is a lot of work with my hands. So I'm making clay, I'm sewing, I'm doing macrame, like I'm doing all this stuff because I am so used to doing so much with my hands that like I need that extra like motor input or something to get me through that. And it's very nice for me. But yeah,
So have you and I were talking a little bit before we started about a reaction that I got in a mom's group regarding suggesting healthy behaviors.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how would you characterize their response to my my, and in my mind, relatively well thought out, benign suggestion of, you know, maybe cutting down sugar a little bit and getting some movement and being proactive in the face of this this fear and this viral attack?
What I would assume that person is doing is this idea of rule following, right? So this idea of, I'm super stressed out. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the only thing that I am doing. This is the thing that's okay. And here are my blinkers. And this is how I control my expectation of reality, right? Anybody who's outside of that, right? So anybody who is saying like, oh, hey, chiropractic and the immune system, it's great. Or like, hey, let's boost that immune system. Nope, that is not what is happening in this area that I'm focusing on. But it happens in other areas too, though, because you have people who are like on the more like natural holistic side who are like, nope, my blinders are right here, right? So everybody's blinder portion is different. You just happen to run into that one.
I happen to run into
Like smash into it.
So
Yeah.
obviously, the point of me starting this group, I mean, the timing was obviously COVID related, but the purpose was for us all to give tools. So, because the stress is not going to end, whether the stress is a virus or the stress is the birth of a child or the stress is a change in job or, you know, a perceived stress, we're all always going to have it. So what are some tools that that you've been giving your clients to implement at any time to help with some of these deflections?
Yeah. So one of the things is knowing why somebody like your spouse or your child reacts in that way. And that when they're doing that, that is actually a coping mechanism and it's a signal, right? Because there's no behavior without a purpose. And so remembering that that person has now left their frontal lobes and is now working down here out of their brainstem in fight or flight, that's not a good place for you to teach them something. That's not a good place for them to be able to learn or upload information, right? So for those of us who are real teachers, right? Or for those of us who are spreaders of information, like you, me, right? It's really important for us to remember that people acting from that position of fear are not going to uptake long bits of information, little tiny snippets here and there, or for people who are like still working, splitting up that workload into tiny pieces, taking breaks, making sure that they have something that can recharge them, bring them back up to that thinking part of their brain, right? Decreasing that stress level. We are scanning a ton of people and using that heart rate variability monitor to like show people like, hey man, you are super stressed out right now. Or, right, like your sympathetics are on. You are lacking in parasympathetic inhibition.
I don't even need you to scan me.
Yeah, come on over. Or like the other part of that is you are stuck off, right? Like you actually can't even get moving, right? Like you're so stuck in this, like, not fear paralysis. Well, yeah, like fear paralysis, right? Like you see a baby bunny and what does that baby bunny do? Not move, right? And there are people experiencing life in that section of their brainstem right now, and that's their reaction, right? Instead of running away, they're just frozen. right, in inaction. And so somebody may think of that person who's like frozen over here in inaction as like lazy or not doing their job, or like, why are you doing this? But that behavior has a purpose, and it's protective, right? And so I think for all of us to kind of realize that the brain talks through the body, right? Like with posture, you know, like posture is a window to the brain. It's a window as to how well your brain is working, right? And so like a lot of what we're seeing is a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, I'm fine. Totally fine. I'm good. I'm totally good. Totally good. Yep, totally fine. Mm-hmm. Yep, totally here for it. Got all my work done. Yep, totally. My back just hurts a little bit. Don't know what's going on. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. A little bit more going on here than you're telling yourself.
That hurts me like just watching now.
Right? Right? Yeah. But like, once you can kind of get that person to say, okay, I'm not meeting my stress level well, you know, like I'm not able to cope with this, and how can I work through this behavior in a positive way, you know, with everything else going on? Like that's the real ticket, right? And that you can do in 100 different ways, right?
Do you use heart math in the office?
No. I have the CLA scanner, so we do that. I do know people who do like the wave format stuff. That stuff, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so I bought heart math, and it's been out like forever. A few years ago, I bought one for everybody because there's like an app and people can do it on their phone. So for those of you that aren't familiar, essentially it's like biofeedback. So you get to play little games, and you get to see, you know, based on how I'm breathing, what's going on with my heart rate, and am I calm or am I feeling anxious? And the better that you get at it, you know, then the tighter you're able to control things. So that's why I was wondering, you know, what like at-home exercises you're giving your clients to modify some of the behaviors.
Yeah, so that's really interesting that you bring that up. So a couple of different things. One, like I am a big supporter of yoga. I am terrible at yoga. I am awful at it. I do it with my kid, and we do Cosmic Kids Yoga. I don't know if you're aware of this, but
no.
Oh my God, it's so great. It's so great. It's like, I'm not doing yoga for the spiritual enlightenment. I'm doing it because I don't bend over well, right? And so I'm totally here for it. And so we do like Pokemon yoga, or we do like, you know, the Transylvania yoga. I mean, it's
over the computer.
I'm all over it, right? It's good stuff. I look hilarious doing it. But yoga is really cool because you can balance your breathing. And one thing that all of these heart rate variability things have in common is that connection between breath and the ability to calm the central nervous system, right? We as practitioners understand that that's directly tied to the vagus, right? And that vagus nerve, right? If anybody's ridden or if anybody's read any of Stephen Porges' books, right? Like the social vagus and all that sort of stuff, it's fantastic and fascinating. So that brings me to the next thing that I'm telling people to do, which is snuggle. Yes.
Well,
with your kid, with your partner, with you know, with yourself, whatever. But so think about what oxytocin does, right? Oxytocin is that love chemical that not only strengthens the vagus nerve and its capacity to regulate your body, but it also brings you back into your social circle, right? And right now, what is that one huge component of everybody's lives that we're missing? It's that social connection, right? And so regardless if it's just like, let's all just get together and sit closely on the couch, right? That social connection, that doing something with other people, right, in a purposeful way. Like we played Sorry, like the board game.
Oh yeah.
Over breakfast.
I crush Sorry.
Yeah.
We're playing next time.
Fantastic. You're gonna have to beat Bronson because he's like, that kid is ruthless. He is ruthless. He sent all the pieces back, and I'm like, you guys are beating the pants off your mother. He crushed it.
Okay, so funny but not funny, kidding but not kidding. If you are quarantining by yourself, then I mean, are we legitimately like you need to be masturbating? Like there's
I'm here for it. I mean, like, I don't think masturbating is a bad word, and you know, like, self-love is love. Yay. I would love it if, as we open up, people get quarantines, right? Like, so this idea of small groups who are interacting with each other, because that's important, right? The human being is a social being, right? You need that connection. If you don't have it, we know, and I mean, this isn't just chiropractic literature, like, we have lots of literature that says isolation is bad for humans.
Yeah.
On every level. So yes, yay masturbation. Might I suggest a specific brand of high quality, I'm totally not like a rep or anything, but the Lilo brand is fantastic. Also for scar mobilization in the area after you have a baby, right? Because we all need a little bit of that. Yay. There we go.
What was that again?
The Lilo brand.
Lilo.
They're not cheap, but they're great.
We'll investigate. Maybe we'll put a little link to that in the comments.
Yay.
So let's talk about how kids are dealing with, we talked about adults. Let's talk about how kids are dealing with some of this, varying ages or whatever suggestions you have. I mean, we know the social isolation is just horrendous, but.
Yeah. Well, so what I've seen is a real pretty, like a segregation by age and how kids are rationalizing what's going on. So pretty much the like under 5 set, right? 4.5, under 5 are doing pretty well. They don't really kind of understand what's going on. There's just some weird stuff, but their whole life is kind of wrapped around what is directly in front of them. And they seem to be pretty okay, right? They're missing their friends and stuff, but they're enjoying having more time with their parents or their guardians, and they seem to be pretty cool with this. The babies are generally doing great because they get to spend a lot of time with mom. Now let's talk about like the 5 to 8-year-old set. Those kids, along with the teenagers, I think are doing the worst. The 5, 6, 7-year-olds are old enough to understand that something is happening, but they may not be old enough to rationalize what's happening appropriately. They have logic, though. So I will tell you a little thing that my own kid did, what Bronson did, and it's actually like really kind of sad because he thought that the isolation was his fault. Because that's kind of developmentally appropriate, right? He is in self. He has not developed like a really good sense of other yet. So when things happen, he generally is like, oh, this happened to me, right? Not this happened to us, right? So what Bronson did is he said, this is happening. I am the cause of it. Therefore, I must be punished for this. And he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to bite myself in the arm. Because that, like, it's kind of like you can see the logic in it, but like it's super flawed and like not reasonable. But it took me a while to kind of pull apart why he all of a sudden was like, this is all my fault and I'm going to bite my arm when I'm frustrated, right? Which was a behavior that was new right? Because every kid like starts to behave poorly in times of like big stress. And that's what he was doing. He was like, I'm going to freak out, right? I'm going to go to bed. No, I'm not. I'm going to start throwing stuff, which was an escalation of behavior, right? But it escalated to the point where he was like, I am going to hurt myself because this is the only thing that I can think of that will make this situation better. And like, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing these kids who don't have a good sense of rationally what's going on. They have logic. They don't have the really, really good social skills to put these two pieces together and sort of logically top down it. I mean, like, we're seeing adults that can't do that, right? And when it's a kid and when they already don't have a lot of control over their environment, they feel helpless, and then they start to lash out because physically that's the only thing that they could do, right? And so what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of kids who are having escalating behavior, a lot of kids who are getting their medications upped, right? And a lot of parents who are super frustrated because they're like, why did my kid turn into a raging asshole all of a sudden? Right? Well, that's literally exactly what I said about Bronson. I was like, who took my nice kid away and brought this demon child in here? I had like no idea. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Every behavior has a purpose. What's the purpose to Demon Bronson? Right?
To Demon Bronson.
Demon Bronson. Yeah. He's sassy. Oh, he's sassy.
Yeah.
Do you know what he said the other day? We were talking and he's like, I don't want that. And I'm like, okay, fine. And he's like, God, it's like you think I'm deaf or something. And I was like, you. I know, the kid is too much. The kid's too much.
No, Parker's big now, and I didn't know where it came from, but apparently it comes from me because I heard myself say it. But for like weeks now, if you say something to him and he is not interested, he'll look at you and go, I already told you 5 times I don't want a glass of water. And I was like, okay. And then after, like, at first I thought it was cute, and then after a couple times I'm like,
right.
And then I was reprimanding him, and I was like, I already told you 2 times. And I was like,
yep.
So, yeah.
It's
happening.
Yeah. I mean, they model, and that's what they do. It's developmentally appropriate for them, right? And so, like, when they're modeling us, we're like, oh, I really do that, don't I?
It could be worse. It could be much worse.
Right.
So I'm actually very proud of myself.
Yeah, right? Yeah. He's sassy, but I like it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, we call it spicy in our house. We're like, where did the spicy Parker come from? Why are we being spicy? And I call him, and it's kind of funny because I've called him since he was born Nugget.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, where's this spicy nugget come from? So.
Yep.
It works.
Yep.
So what can we leave people with, whether they are trying to deal with their children, work on their own behaviors? You know, it's obviously, I tell people that times of very high stress are not necessarily when you want to be changing things, but what can they practice so that they are, starting to feel better or implement better long-term? Yeah.
So one of the things, like, if you can't really leave your house, is making sure that you're actually moving and making sure that kids are moving, right? Like balance boards, or like just take stuff around the house and like make an obstacle course, right? Make stuff for them to jump over, obviously safely, or like stuff for them to like run around. Like we put like random plastic cups in the thing and are like, all right, we're gonna go around this one, through this one, over these guys, right? Do that. There's a lot of Montessori-based exercises that are super fun, and they're actually challenging for young brains. So, like, pick 5 objects that are different, right? Small objects, right? Or like maybe a spoon or like a pebble and then like a marble. Put them in a bag so that you can't see them and have the kid reach into the bag and find the object that you're asking for, right? Like find the marble, find the spoon, right? And you can make up all sorts of games like that, right? If you want to buy stuff on Amazon, there's tons of stuff on Amazon, right? Movement and movement-based exercises, right, are really kind of easy for kids to do, but they can also be that base frame that they're missing right now. Right. Because when they're inside, they're sitting at a desk, they're doing all, I mean, it's the same stuff that they're doing in school minus the social interaction, right? Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen a bunch of kids like really hate the like Zoom meeting sort of format that they've kind of been forced into. Like Bronson doesn't like it at all. He would much rather like skip it and go actually do something than do this like Zoom meeting thing. So like give them a little grace, because I think that they understand on like a visceral level that like this is not the healthiest thing for them, but there's like not an alternative. Right. We actually have been getting him out in the garden. We got a power washer. He's been power washing with Dad. My garage looks amazing. They also wrote fart on the sidewalk. I was a little miffed at that, but not really.
That's fabulous.
But, you know, I mean, like it's stuff like that. We do have a little bit of extra time, right, on our hands, and, you know, maybe a little bit of ability to do something like that, right? Like involve them. Like Bronson and I have been making cookies probably about once or twice a week, right? My COVID-20 is a real thing, right? Gonna have to be working on that. But I have had a lot of failed cookies. They still taste fine, but like, I'm not very good pleasing. No, there is no Pinterest level cookie baking going on in my house. But yeah, so like after those like basic movement stuff, like then go to fine motor stuff, right? Egg cracking, like take a board with pins in it and like make shapes out of the pins. Do you know what I'm talking about? With like rubber bands and stuff. Yeah, or like those lacing boards. Like those are really cool. Teach your kid to sew. Probably everybody has a sewing needle and thread somewhere. Or like tying knots with like rope or twine or anything. Really, kids are pretty happy doing like pretty reasonable stuff that like doesn't take a $45 toy that lights up, beeps, and makes noise, right? Like try and teach them a skill. You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, my assistant is waking up.
Fantastic. Do you need to go grab him?
It's okay. I have help.
Awesome.
I like that. So yeah, some of the more gross motor things we've done with Parker, but I have tried to involve him. I mean, he goes to Montessori school, so he does some of that under normal circumstances. And I have tried to involve him in the cooking and in different things to keep him occupied and keep his brain from turning into pudding during this.
Yeah, and like also, you know, to give him some sense of inclusion, right? Because I think that that's part of what like a Montessori-based learning does, is they include kids together in small group learning experiences, right? And that kid gets a lot of decision-making ability. And so when all of a sudden they're taken out of that and they're put into a regular home situation where like, what do we have a tendency to do as parents? Hey, go do this. Hey, go do this. Now we're doing that, right? There's no decision-making on their part. One of the other things is a lot of kids are, because we don't really know what is going to happen tomorrow, and a lot of us have this issue with predictive capacity, is a lot of kids are having a lot of anxiety around that. And so one of the ways that we've tried to stem that is at night, right? Maybe over dinner, whatever, write out your basic plan for the next day. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated, but talk about it. Be like, hey, these are the things that we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to get up at this time. We're going to have some breakfast. We're going to go to the barn so that mom can not fall off of a horse again. This is our day on Wednesday. We are going to drive to your dental appointment, and then you and me are going to drive home, and we're going to hang out with dad. Give them a little ability to like see the future, right? Instead of, oh, hey, we're going here, then we're, you know, and then we're going here and like doing it in the car. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So like give them a little bit of capacity to understand what's going to happen next.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna share obviously your contact information and your links and everything. Is it best for people to follow up with you through the website? Give the office a call if they have questions?
Yeah.
Best.
Yeah, just give the office a call. We've got a ton of ways to contact us, right? If you have questions for me, you can always call the office. Feel free to leave a voicemail. We are in the office, like kind of limited hours right now, but we get back to those as fast as we can.
Sarah is, and you're in the group too, so if people have questions, yeah, they can just post below the video and answering as we go. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so if they want to reach out to the office number is 888-476-5171. They can also get at me here. We have a website. It's drsarahwatson.com. They can text us if you want to text yes. DRSARAH to 91998. That'll get you connected to us, and we can answer a little bit of questions there. They can also email us at info@drsarahwatson.com.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
There we go. Or difficult, lemon difficult.
Yeah,
So, either way.
Depending on the minute.
Pretty much.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing your time and your fabulous background with us.
No problem. I always have a great time, and I'm glad that you like my background.
I know.
Awesome.
Have a beautiful weekend. Happy Memorial Day.
I will. Thank you, and thank you, everybody.
I know. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.